Kindness is invincible, but only when it is sincere, when it is free of pretense, hypocrisy, or manipulation. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations 11:18, reflects on this idea. What can even the most malicious person do if you continue to show them genuine kindness? And what if, in that moment, you calmly and gently pointed out their error while they were still trying to harm you? What would it look like if, the next time you were treated with disrespect, you didn't just restrain yourself from retaliating, but instead responded with clear, unshaken kindness? The Bible challenges us to love our enemies and to do good to those who hate us. It says that when you show compassion to someone who is cruel, it is like heaping burning coals upon their head. They expect you to strike back. They expect the same hostility in return. When that doesn't happen, when they are met with warmth instead of hate, they are left unsettled. It is a shock to the system. Rudeness, meanness, and cruelty are often masks for deeper fear and weakness. True kindness in such situations is a form of strength. It is a discipline. It is an act of mastery over the self. You already have that strength. The Stoic path is how you learn to use it. Cruelty is not a modern invention. The world has always carried with it a mix of indifference, injustice, and suffering. The Stoics did not pretend otherwise. They saw the world clearly, with its hardships, betrayals, and harshness. Yet, in the middle of that reality, they built an inner life that was untouchable. They did not retreat from the world. They moved through it with clarity and conviction. They believed the wise person was not the one untouched by difficulty, but the one who responded to it with reason, restraint, and strength. In a world that can be cruel, the Stoic does not become cruel in return. They do not allow the world to corrupt their principles. They meet injustice with justice, hate with discipline, and suffering with virtue. This video is about the Stoic response to cruelty, not just from others, but from life itself. It is about how we can cultivate strength without bitterness, compassion without weakness, and clarity without detachment. Through 10 chapters, we will explore key Stoic strategies that help us stand upright in a world that often bends others. Each chapter will offer guidance, practical application, and the wisdom of the Stoics themselves. Chapter 1. Understand the nature of the world. The first response to cruelty is recognition. The world is not fair in a conventional sense. It is governed by change, accident, and natural consequence. Pain, loss, betrayal, these are not exceptions but part of the structure. The Stoics trained themselves to expect hardship, not with despair, but with readiness. Epictetus taught that we should not ask for events to happen as we wish, but rather wish for events to happen as they do, and align ourselves with nature. Cruelty, in this sense, becomes less personal when we view it through a Stoic lens. It does not always come from a deliberate desire to harm. Much of it originates from confusion, fear, or a lack of awareness. People act out of self-interest, habit, or emotional instability. Their behavior often reflects their own internal struggles rather than an accurate judgment of others. When we stop assuming every slight is about us, we begin to conserve energy that would otherwise be spent on offense, frustration, or retaliation. This shift does not excuse harmful actions. It puts them into context. The insult or mistreatment becomes a symptom of something broader rather than a direct assault on who we are. Accepting that life includes suffering allows the mind to settle. We stop expecting smoothness. We stop looking for perfection. Disappointment comes from unrealistic assumptions. When we expect everything to be fair, every deviation feels like a betrayal. When we accept that challenges are woven into the nature of existence, we are not thrown off course by them. They become part of the landscape, not a personal crisis. This approach develops steadiness. It turns frustration into observation. It allows us to prepare rather than react. The Stoic mindset is not passive, it is deliberate. It recognizes what can be influenced and what must be endured. The actions of others fall outside our control. Accidents, delays, insults, these belong to the external realm. We influence them only indirectly. Our inner life, on the other hand, is always within reach. It can be shaped through discipline, reflection, and practice. The Stoic focuses energy here. The outer world may remain chaotic, but the inner world becomes structured. This separation gives clarity. You are no longer pulled in every direction by events outside yourself. You are rooted in your own principles and reactions. This training in perspective becomes a habit. Each moment of difficulty becomes another session in your education. You are not surprised by setbacks. You expect them. You train for them. You face them like a student faces an exam, with preparedness and attention. This is the foundation of resilience. It is not made of toughness or detachment, but of consistent self-awareness. One way the Stoics practiced this readiness was through a morning visualization called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not pessimism, it is mental preparation. Each morning, you consider what the day may bring. Will someone insult you? Will something break? Will plans fall through? Will you feel tired or misunderstood? You think through these possibilities calmly. You do not fear them. You do not dwell on them. You simply acknowledge their likelihood and prepare your mind to meet them well. This practice forms a quiet strength. You walk into the day aware that difficulty may appear. When it does, you are not caught off guard. You have already rehearsed your response. You have already accepted that challenge is part of the day's structure. This mindset creates stability. It gives you the space to pause, to assess, and to choose a wise response. In time, you begin to meet hardship not with frustration, but with calm. You no longer take cruelty as a personal threat. You see it as a familiar guest. You learn how to host it without losing your center. Chapter 2. Do not return cruelty for cruelty. When wronged, the natural impulse is to strike back, to match insult with insult, harm with harm. The Stoics saw this as a loss of control. The Stoics trained themselves to resist this impulse. Marcus Aurelius made it clear that true strength lies in choosing a better standard of behavior. He advised that the best revenge is to remain unaffected in character, to stay principled, calm, and composed, even when provoked. Responding in kind gives the other person control over your actions. It attaches your behavior to theirs and lowers the standard you've set for yourself. When you respond to cruelty with the same energy, you allow it to shape you. You begin to behave like the very person you oppose. This is a loss of independence. You become reactive instead of intentional. The Stoic view sees these moments as opportunities to apply what you've trained for. Every insult becomes a moment to test your reasoning. Every betrayal becomes a moment to apply your values. Instead of seeing these events as violations, the Stoic reframes them as reminders to hold fast to what matters. This does not mean silence in the face of wrongdoing. Stoics were not passive observers of harm. They believed in justice. They believed in truth. But their defense of these values was rooted in discipline. They did not lash out. They spoke clearly. They corrected with composure. They acted with reason. Their behavior was determined by inner clarity, not emotional reaction. The Stoic disciplines their emotions the way an archer steadies their hands. They do not allow anger to throw off their aim. Retaliation often feels satisfying in the short term. It may even feel like justice, but it rarely leads to resolution. It deepens conflict. It creates new wounds and hardens both sides. The Stoic is aware of this cycle and chooses to break it. They recognize that cruelty feeds on repetition. It grows stronger when matched. It weakens when it finds no target. Practicing restraint requires more than a single effort. It requires repetition and reflection. It requires the ability to step back in the middle of intensity and re-center yourself. This ability can be trained like any other skill. One method is to slow the response. When someone treats you unfairly, pause before you speak. Take one full breath. This small gap creates space for clarity. It interrupts the automatic urge to react. In that space, you can ask a guiding question. What is the most honorable response I can give in this moment? Writing down your response before giving it can also sharpen your thinking. It allows you to separate emotion from judgment. You can see your own words from a distance before they reach the other person. This process builds a habit of careful communication. It turns your speech into an act of intention. It allows you to shape your response the way a sculptor shapes a block of stone, with deliberate hands and a clear vision. The Stoic approach involves discipline over emotion. It does not require the suppression of feeling, but the structured guidance of it. A builder does not ignore the weight of a stone. They calculate its weight, understand its shape, and carry it with purpose. Emotions, in this same way, are not denied. They are studied, directed, and used constructively. Anger, sadness, and pain are signals. They tell us something about our values, our attachments, or our expectations. A Stoic learns to interpret these signals instead of reacting impulsively to them. Pain, offense, and betrayal are inevitable parts of living. They are woven into relationships, ambition, and interaction with others. To face life fully, one must be able to carry these burdens. Stoic training sharpens this ability. Through reflection, restraint, and reason, each emotional blow is turned into material for further self-mastery. Nothing is wasted. Every difficult emotion is transformed into an exercise in balance. This is how control is developed. You no longer react as a victim. You act with understanding. You hold the emotion without letting it dictate your behavior. This repeated training forms a clear and stable character. You become reliable in difficult moments. You do not shift with the moods of others. You do not crumble under insult or provocation. You think before you act. You pause before you speak. This consistency builds trust in yourself. It builds confidence rooted in preparation, not appearance. You become someone who is not easily shaken because you have already examined the storm and trained for it. A Stoic's identity is shaped by repeated effort, by the refusal to let difficulty distort behavior. Cruelty, hardship, and injustice are expected. The focus remains on how to meet them without surrendering your principles. When provoked, you remember your training. When tested, you recall your posture. Over time, these actions form your nature. You begin to meet pressure with calm. You hold your direction while others lose theirs. The world around you may remain unpredictable, but your character becomes steady. You are no longer driven by what others do. You are anchored in what you choose to be. Chapter 3. Anchor yourself in principle. The world shifts, people change, circumstances evolve. What remains constant is your commitment to your values. This consistency is not tied to mood, popularity, or external reinforcement. It is the product of deliberate choice and continuous reinforcement. The Stoic does not rely on approval to act rightly. They do not depend on comfort to stay clear. They hold to principle even when surroundings become unstable. Courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom are the foundation of Stoic action. They are not occasional ideals, but daily requirements. Courage allows you to face difficulty without retreat. Justice helps you treat others fairly, even when they do not do the same. Temperance disciplines desire and impulse. Wisdom helps you judge clearly and act appropriately. These are not abstract ideas. They are tools you return to again and again. In a world where pressure often pushes people to abandon their values, these virtues hold you in place. Cruelty introduces temptation. You may feel the urge to protect yourself through lies. You may want to act out of panic. You may think silence is easier than speaking a hard truth. You may consider withdrawing when presence is required. Each of these is a test. These are the moments where principle becomes more than theory. The Stoic prepares for these moments by building a firm structure within. When a situation demands response, you lean on what you have practiced. Holding your ground does not mean defiance for its own sake. It means remembering your code when others forget theirs. It means applying your virtues when it feels least convenient. This discipline gives you moral clarity when the situation around you is unclear. When others become unpredictable, your standards remain in place. They become your compass. One practical method for building this clarity is through daily reflection. Begin by identifying your personal values in writing. Make them specific to your behavior and decisions. Define what courage means for your daily actions, whether that is speaking honestly, staying composed during conflict, or taking responsibility for difficult tasks. Define justice as fairness in treatment, honesty in speech, and loyalty to what is right regardless of public opinion. Define temperance as moderation in your habits, restraint in emotional reactions, and clarity in speech. Define wisdom as the commitment to seek truth, learn from mistakes, and observe life carefully before drawing conclusions. Once you have written these values down, treat them as a code. They are not decorative. They are to be used as tools. Review them at the end of each day. Ask yourself direct questions. Did I speak with honesty when it was uncomfortable? Did I treat others fairly, even those who frustrated me? Did I show restraint in moments of anger or stress? Did I seek clarity before acting or making assumptions? Write your answers plainly. Do not excuse lapses or inflate victories. The goal is clarity, not comfort. This form of self-examination strengthens your awareness. You begin to notice patterns. You see where you drift and where you hold steady. You learn what triggers your best actions and what conditions weaken your discipline. This daily habit exposes the distance between your stated values and your real behavior. Over time, you close that gap. You correct course more quickly. You become more deliberate in your words and actions. Consistency builds trust in yourself. You begin to act with less hesitation. You do not rely on mood or motivation to behave well. You behave well because it has become part of your structure. You are not led by impulse or external pressure. You are led by principle. This makes you less dependent on approval. You no longer need to be reminded to do what is right. You remember it on your own. You no longer look around to see if others are watching. You act with discipline even when unseen. This kind of internal structure becomes especially important in unfair or hostile situations. When someone insults you or misjudges you, your values still belong to you. When plans fail or outcomes disappoint, your response still belongs to you. You cannot control what happens around you. You can control how you choose to act in response. This is the ground that cannot be taken from you. External events can disrupt your schedule, your resources, or your sense of security. They cannot reach into your mind and remove your ability to respond with clarity. Your values remain available in all conditions. You can apply courage in prison. You can apply justice in obscurity. You can practice temperance in pain. You can act with wisdom in confusion. This is the source of Stoic strength. It does not depend on ideal conditions. It is carried within. This is how you build a foundation that holds under stress. A foundation like this is not built during comfort. It is shaped in challenge, strengthened through repetition, and tested in moments of loss or tension. When hardship removes external rewards, What remains is the structure you've built within. You may lose physical comfort, you may face pain, instability, or material lack. These losses are real, but they do not reach the core of your judgment. You may lose recognition or status. People may ignore your efforts or misunderstand your intentions. That loss may affect reputation, but it does not define your value. You may lose control over events. Outcomes may shift in directions you did not choose. The future may feel uncertain or unstable. Despite these losses, your inner faculties remain fully available. Your reason allows you to make sense of the moment. Your conscience gives you a guide for right action. Your integrity gives you the strength to follow through, even when there is no reward or acknowledgement. These capacities are not given by the world. They are maintained through training. They are earned through daily effort and choice. Because they are internal, they are always accessible. You do not have to wait for better conditions to act with clarity. This access becomes your greatest advantage. In a world that is unstable, you become consistent. In situations that are unjust, you act with justice. When others panic or collapse, you remain composed. You do not depend on perfect circumstances to do what is right. You are able to act wisely in moments where others hesitate. This gives you freedom. It gives you direction. It gives you strength that endures when everything else changes. This is the foundation the Stoics sought to build. A life based on virtue rather than ease. A mind trained to withstand both praise and blame. A character that stays whole when the world fragments. This is the power of a stable inner life. It is built piece by piece through awareness, intention, and honest reflection. Over time, it becomes your true support when everything external becomes unreliable. Chapter 4. Detach from the need for approval. Cruelty often takes the form of judgment, exclusion, or criticism. These expressions tend to target the human desire to be accepted, understood, or admired. Most people carry an internal need for validation. They want to feel seen and valued. This creates a vulnerability. When someone withholds praise, rejects your efforts, or offers harsh feedback, it can feel like a direct threat to your sense of self. The Stoic works to become aware of this tendency and gradually free themselves from it. Epictetus reminded his students that real freedom begins when you no longer require approval from others to feel secure. This form of detachment is not about denying your social nature. It is about learning to stand on a stable foundation. If your peace depends on being admired, it will always be unstable. Public opinion changes often. People judge without context. External validation is inconsistent. When your sense of worth is tied to that, it becomes fragile. Allowing someone else's cruelty to disturb your inner peace is a form of surrender. It gives them power over your state of mind. The Stoic reverses that transaction. They bring the authority for their own self-respect back into their hands. They evaluate their behavior by examining whether it was aligned with reason, virtue, and justice. If their actions are guided by those principles, then judgment from others becomes less significant. This inner evaluation depends on honesty. It is not inflated by praise, and it is not crushed by criticism. It is measured by effort, consistency, and character. This form of judgment is firm and fair. It does not allow external cruelty to distort your view of yourself. You gain confidence that is built on what you know about your behavior rather than what others say about it. This kind of detachment creates space. It allows you to stay centered even when others are aggressive or dismissive. When you are insulted, you do not immediately internalize it. You observe it. You assess its accuracy. If it is true, you learn from it. If it is false, you discard it. Either way, your course remains steady. You are no longer trying to please everyone. You are living in alignment with values that are independent of opinion. This form of strength is practical. It helps you maintain kindness when others are harsh, It helps you stay focused when others try to distract you with drama. It helps you avoid unnecessary conflict. You do not chase validation, and you do not retreat when criticized. You move forward with a quiet confidence that is earned through reflection. You can reinforce this mindset through a simple exercise. Choose a moment from your life when you were misjudged, criticized unfairly, or excluded without clear reason. Replay the situation in your mind without exaggeration. Focus on the facts. Ask yourself direct questions. Did I act with integrity in that moment? Did I stay true to what I believe? Was my behavior consistent with the values I have committed to follow? Honesty, fairness, restraint, clarity. Answer each question based on what you know to be true, not what others may have assumed. If you acted in alignment with your values, let that guide your conclusion. Stand on that judgment. If you did not act with clarity or principle, acknowledge it without shame or avoidance. Identify what you would do differently next time. Write it down if needed. That correction is part of growth. The key is that the assessment must come from you, not from flattery, pressure, or reaction. You are building the habit of self-accountability. This process trains your mind to return to your own judgment instead of depending on external approval. The more often you do it, the more natural it becomes. When future criticism arises, you will already have a method in place. You will review your conduct, assess it with reason, and decide whether it deserves attention or can be dismissed. This response gives you back control. You do not swing between praise and blame. You stay grounded in the truth of your own conduct. Speak to yourself during this process as a calm and reliable guide would. Avoid harshness. Avoid indulgence. Use language that is exact, clear, and centered on growth. Say what you need to hear to return to balance. Over time, this voice becomes the one you trust most. It will replace the noise of others' opinions. It will stay steady even when others misunderstand or misrepresent you. This internal voice becomes your compass. It will guide your behavior even when no one is watching. It will help you navigate difficult conversations, unfair treatment, or public failure. You will be less likely to lash out or retreat. You will know how to stand firm without hostility. This is how the Stoic protects their self-respect, through clarity, through practice, and through the decision to trust what is earned through reasoned reflection. Chapter 5. Respond with kindness, without pretense. Kindness is not weakness. It is a form of power that has been disciplined and guided. It requires strength to stay calm when provoked. It requires presence of mind to act with patience instead of hostility. In a world that often rewards aggression and dominance, sincere kindness stands out. It catches people by surprise. It interrupts the expected rhythm of conflict. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that true kindness is invincible, so long as it is rooted in sincerity and free from pretension. Sincerity is what gives kindness its force. When kindness is used as a tool to manipulate, it loses its grounding. When it is used to appear virtuous or to gain influence, it becomes performance. People sense the difference. The Stoic does not practice kindness as a tactic. They practice it as an extension of their values. They act kindly because it aligns with who they have chosen to be, not because it will produce a specific reaction from others. This approach helps the Stoic keep their stability in hostile environments. When confronted with cruelty, they do not meet it on its terms. They do not mirror its tone or energy. Cruelty gains strength when it creates more cruelty. It feeds on reaction. It escalates through imitation. When that chain is broken, when someone responds with steadiness and goodwill, the energy of cruelty often collapses. It has no momentum to build on. People who expect retaliation are surprised by composure. That surprise can create a moment of pause and sometimes a shift in behavior. You can prepare for this through small habits. These habits shape your responses over time. When you are insulted, dismissed, or confronted unfairly, your instinct may be to protect your ego or prove your worth. You may feel pressure to correct the other person, explain yourself, or return the insult. Before you speak, pause. Create distance between the event and your reaction. Take a slow breath to ground your awareness. Bring your attention back to your principles. Remind yourself of the kind of person you are training to become. Then respond with measured calm. Say something brief and composed, such as, "Thank you for sharing that," or "I see you're upset. I hope your day improves." These replies do not submit or yield. They also do not return aggression. They communicate clarity. They acknowledge the moment without adding to the noise. They show that you are choosing a higher standard of behavior, one that is based on discipline rather than reaction. These types of responses are not formulas. They are the outward expression of an internal structure. They are signs that your mind has been trained to meet hostility with order. They protect you from saying something you would later regret. They allow you to move on without carrying the emotional burden of conflict. Over time, as these responses become habits, you spend less energy recovering from heated exchanges. You lose less time to resentment and stress. You act with clarity in moments when others are pulled off course. This level of response does not emerge from willpower alone. It is developed through repetition. Each time you face a small challenge and respond with calm, you build a stronger base for the next one. Each time you resist the urge to lash out, you reinforce your discipline. Eventually, you no longer need to search for the right words. You have already built the kind of person who knows how to speak with control and purpose. Responding to cruelty with kindness also changes how others perceive you. People notice composure. They recognize when someone does not flinch or overreact. Over time, they begin to trust your presence. They rely on your stability when they feel uncertain themselves. This influence grows through example. It cannot be announced or performed. It must be demonstrated in real conditions. That kind of trust is earned over time. It becomes part of your identity. People know you will not add to the chaos. They know you will hold the line. This reputation is not the goal. It is a consequence of living in alignment with principle. It is what happens when you respond to disorder with order and to cruelty with reasoned control. The Stoic seeks to respond in a way that reflects their core values. They do not match the behavior of others. They express the consistency they have worked to build. This creates strength that is useful under pressure. The Stoic chooses kindness because it matches their code. It is a reflection of the clarity they train for. It protects their mind from unnecessary conflict. It stabilizes their character in unstable environments. This is strength in action, quiet, controlled, and sustained. It is how you respond to a cruel world without becoming cruel yourself. Chapter 6. Build inner stillness through self-control. Stillness is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of control. A person can be surrounded by chaos and still remain calm. This quality is developed through the steady practice of self-restraint. The Stoics saw this as essential. External conditions are often unstable, but your response does not have to be. When you discipline your reactions, you create a space within yourself that the world cannot reach. Self-control begins with attention. Notice when your emotions start to rise. Recognize the early signs: tightness in the chest, rushed thoughts, a quickening voice. These signals are opportunities. They give you time to redirect. Do not wait until the emotion has overtaken your judgment. Begin the work earlier. Ask yourself what virtue is needed in that moment. Is it patience? Is it courage? Is it silence? This pause allows you to recenter. You do not follow every impulse. You train your body and mind to wait, to listen, and to decide with clarity. That pause is a form of power. It prevents mistakes. It keeps the situation in your hands. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about how important it was to keep the mind free from disturbance, not through indifference, but through discipline. He viewed this inner stillness as the foundation of rational action. You can practice this throughout your day. Begin with moments that seem small. When you feel the urge to interrupt someone, wait instead. When you feel annoyed by a delay, breathe instead. When you feel offended, observe the feeling without acting on it. These are small acts of self-control, but their effect is large. Each time you choose not to follow the immediate impulse, you gain more control over your internal state. This self-governance creates peace. You no longer feel dragged by your surroundings. You begin to act with purpose even when others lose their direction. The more consistent your practice, the deeper your stillness becomes. It turns into your base. When things fall apart around you, you return to it. You do not collapse. You do not escalate. You remain steady. Inner stillness does not mean inaction. It means you act from reason. You speak with care. You lead with clarity. This stillness becomes visible. People notice it. They feel it in your presence. It calms others. It influences without force. This is the kind of strength the Stoics admired. A presence rooted in control. A mind that is not scattered. A person who carries themselves with quiet discipline, no matter the noise around them. Chapter 7. Practice silence before speaking. Speech reveals the state of the mind. The Stoics treated words with precision because they understood their impact. A moment of silence before speaking is not hesitation, it is discipline. It shows that you are thinking, not reacting. It creates space to filter emotion through reason. In moments of conflict or confusion, that silence becomes a form of control. Most problems in communication begin with speed. People speak to defend, to interrupt, or to impress. This rush can distort meaning and increase tension. The Stoics slows this process down. They listen first. They study the situation. They choose words that reflect thought, not ego. This kind of silence does not come from fear. It comes from training. It is a space for clarity to form. When someone insults you or raises their voice, the temptation is to respond quickly. A pause gives you a chance to stay above the noise. It gives you a moment to consider whether a response is even necessary. Many insults do not deserve answers. Many attacks dissolve when they meet no resistance. Silence, in this case, is not absence. It is a deliberate refusal to join the noise. Practicing silence also strengthens perception. You begin to hear what others miss. You notice tone, posture, and inconsistency. You learn to read people more clearly. This gives you an advantage in conflict. You are not led by surface emotion. You are guided by deeper understanding. You are able to respond with precision instead of instinct. There are many ways to train this discipline. When you feel the urge to correct someone immediately, hold back for a few breaths. When you feel misunderstood, resist the urge to explain right away. Let silence fill the space. Use it as a tool to reset your focus. Over time, this becomes a habit. You stop reacting to everything. You begin choosing what deserves your words. This restraint creates presence. When you do speak, others listen more closely. Your words carry weight because they are rare and measured. You build a reputation for control. People feel more at ease around you. They trust your judgment. They know you are not easily pulled into drama or argument. This trust is earned through silence as much as through speech. The Stoics believed that speaking less and with more purpose is a sign of wisdom. It protects the mind from being scattered. It protects relationships from unnecessary damage. It builds clarity in both thought and action. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, your silence becomes a form of strength. Chapter 8. Let action speak more than words. The Stoics placed more value on action than on speech. A person's conduct carries more weight than their claims. Words are easy to produce. They require little effort and no real test. Actions, on the other hand, reveal commitment. They reflect what a person truly believes. In a world full of noise, steady action has clarity. A Stoic chooses to demonstrate character through behavior. They focus on what they do rather than what they say. This reduces the need for explanation. If your life is lived with discipline, others will see it. If your choices align with your values, your presence will communicate that. This allows you to live with less justification. You are no longer trying to prove anything with words. Your actions stand on their own. This approach creates a quiet form of leadership. People are drawn to consistency. They watch how you behave under stress, how you handle pressure, how you recover from failure. These moments build trust. They show what kind of person you are. The Stoic uses daily life as proof of principle. Each choice becomes a message. Each habit becomes a declaration. Living this way also protects your energy. Constantly talking about your goals, beliefs, or values shifts your focus outward. It can become a habit of performance where the image of discipline replaces the actual work of discipline. Time spent explaining or defending intentions is time not spent acting. The Stoic understands that progress is made through movement, not through promises. Energy is preserved when it is used for execution. Each decision, each repetition, each adjustment contributes to real growth. A person who focuses on action builds skill. They encounter the practical lessons that cannot be found in theory alone. Mistakes give clarity. Challenges refine judgment. Patterns develop over time, not through intention, but through consistent effort. In this process, values are not just spoken. They are tested. They are shaped into behaviors. That shaping process creates depth. It builds integrity that holds under pressure. You do not need to convince others when your behavior already confirms your intent. To build this discipline, keep your attention on the next task. Avoid discussing what you plan to do or how you want to be seen. Instead, use that time to do the work itself. Structure your day around what you value. Let your daily routine become evidence. This approach simplifies your direction. It removes distractions and helps you stay grounded in what matters. Let your work express your priorities. Let your consistency express your mindset. Let your response to difficulty show your character. When you do speak, people will recognize that your words are backed by conduct. They will listen because you have earned the right to be heard through your actions. This kind of speech carries influence because it reflects experience, not theory. The Stoic does not avoid communication. They develop the discipline to speak with meaning. They avoid unnecessary statements. They speak when clarity is needed. They act when principle is required. Their words do not compete with their life. Their life makes their words credible. This balance between speech and action builds presence. A Stoic's presence is calm and deliberate. It is shaped through habit. It does not depend on attention. It holds firm in silence. When others need to be seen, the Stoic remains steady. When others reach for recognition, the Stoic reaches for discipline. This presence influences others without force. It draws attention through stability, not performance. Chapter 9. Choose responsibility over complaint. The Stoic response to adversity begins with responsibility. When something difficult happens, the impulse may be to complain, blame others, or dwell on the injustice. This weakens focus and drains energy. Complaint shifts attention outward, away from what can be done. Responsibility pulls that attention back inward. It asks, what can I do next? The Stoics believed that events themselves are not the problem. It is our interpretation that causes distress. If we believe we are powerless, we stop acting. If we believe others are to blame for everything, we lose the ability to change ourselves. Taking responsibility restores that power. It does not erase difficulty, but it opens the way to action. This shift begins with language. Complaints often come from the habit of pointing outward. They should not have said that. This situation is unfair. I deserve better. These statements may feel justified, but they do not lead to growth. The Stoic replaces them with questions rooted in agency. How should I respond? What is within my control? What can I learn from this? Responsibility also includes how you carry emotional weight. Pain, frustration, disappointment, and uncertainty will arise. These feelings are natural. They signal that something matters to you. The Stoic does not ignore these emotions, but they do not let them govern behavior. You may be hurt by someone's actions or discouraged by circumstances. In that moment, you have a choice. You decide whether the emotion influences your next move or whether it stays contained within your awareness. This is not a call to suppress. It is a call to manage. Strong emotions, if left unchecked, disrupt judgment. They shift attention away from principle and into reaction. A Stoic observes emotion, names it clearly, and then chooses a response shaped by reason. You can train this habit through close observation. Begin by identifying your patterns of complaint. Notice the thoughts that arise when something doesn't go your way. Pay attention to how often you explain difficulties by blaming others or external events. These reactions are clues. They point to areas where responsibility can be reclaimed. Each time you catch yourself preparing to complain, stop and assess the value of the thought. Does it lead to any useful action? Does it clarify your direction? Or does it simply prolong the feeling of being wronged? Replace the complaint with a forward step. That step does not need to be dramatic. It may be organizing your environment, preparing for a conversation, adjusting your expectations, or simply taking a break to reset your focus. Each small action signals to your mind that you are moving back into control. These steps restore momentum. They prevent stagnation. They shift you from passivity to initiative. When practiced consistently, this mindset becomes visible. Others begin to notice. People respect those who take responsibility without being forced to. They trust those who can remain composed without looking for someone to blame. This form of self-leadership earns credibility. It becomes part of your presence. It shows that you operate from a stable internal framework, not emotional impulse. This mindset applies most when outcomes are uncertain. Uncertainty is part of life. Plans break. People change. Events unfold without warning. These situations test your training. When something fails, when goals are delayed, or when support disappears, the Stoic does not drift into despair. They ask a clear and steady question: what can I still do? This question becomes a compass. It pulls the attention away from blame and toward personal agency. It anchors the mind in responsibility. It separates what remains useful from what is already lost. This reorientation helps restore order. When pressure is high, the mind can scatter. Clarity narrows that field of reaction. Focusing on what is still possible creates stability. Even a simple step, cleaning your space, writing your thoughts, completing one task, begins to shift your state. The Stoic seeks out the actions that still belong to them. They do not freeze in uncertainty. They reduce it through movement. They regain control by focusing on process over outcome. Structure becomes your guide in these moments. It gives you something to return to when emotion tries to pull you away from principle. a routine, a checklist, a short list of core duties. These tools help carry you through when motivation fades. Even if the situation is unresolved, you still have a path. You follow it not for comfort, but for direction. This ability to redirect the mind during chaos is built through practice. It requires you to repeatedly train your attention toward what you can influence. Each setback becomes a new chance to reinforce this skill. You do not wait for the situation to improve before acting. You act to maintain who you are inside the situation. This is how you develop steadiness. It is a strength earned in the middle of difficulty. Strength is not only shown in moments of success. Success often depends on external conditions. The Stoic focuses on what remains when those conditions change. Strength is found in the posture you return to when things do not go as planned. It is seen in how quickly you reset, how steadily you carry pain, and how calmly you choose your next move. These responses are shaped through repetition. You build them one decision at a time. They accumulate over weeks, months, and years of choosing to face hardship with focus. In this way, responsibility stops being a reaction. It becomes a constant. It becomes a rule you apply to every condition, conflict, uncertainty, loss, or delay. You no longer ask who is at fault. You ask what can be done. This discipline allows you to stand firm while others collapse. It gives you the ability to move forward with clarity when nothing around you is certain. Chapter 10. Endure with dignity. Respond with character. Endurance is a form of resistance. It is the choice to stand firm through discomfort, pressure, and adversity. The Stoics believed endurance was not about tolerance alone. It was about how one carries themselves in difficulty. There is a difference between enduring with tension and enduring with dignity. The latter shows that pain has not taken control of your character. To endure with dignity means you do not collapse inward under stress. You do not turn pain into bitterness. You carry it without complaint and without losing sight of your values. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that suffering is made heavier by resistance to it. When you accept what is happening and focus on your response, you lessen the burden. The mind remains clear. The character stays intact. This endurance becomes more powerful when paired with conscious response. You do not just hold your ground. You act from that ground. You speak with purpose. You offer support to others. You continue to do what is right, even when it goes unnoticed. These actions are not reactive. They are steady. They reflect who you are, not what you feel. One way to train this response is to begin with physical discomfort. Stand in cold weather for a few moments without reacting. Wait through hunger without irritability. Move through tiredness with intention. These small exercises build the habit of endurance. They teach you that pain passes and that your character remains if you choose to hold it. Mental endurance is also strengthened by returning to your principles. When the mind begins to spiral or complain, remind yourself of what you stand for. Repeat your values in silence. Review the kind of person you are committed to becoming. Anchor yourself there. From that point, speak only what is useful. Act only from clarity. The world often reacts to pain with noise, with anger, with avoidance, with distraction. The Stoic meets pain with structure. They reduce chaos by becoming an example of order. Their presence calms others because it is rooted. This is how endurance becomes influence. It affects others not by control, but by showing what is possible. The final test of endurance is consistency. Anyone can respond well once. The Stoic aims to do it again and again, not for recognition, but because it confirms their alignment with reason. Every test of adversity becomes a chance to return to discipline. Each return strengthens identity. Each difficulty becomes part of the structure. Endurance is not passive, It is active control over the response to hardship. The Stoic sees adversity as a field of practice. They move through it without abandoning who they are. This is how character is shaped. This is how dignity is preserved.